I always glow.
We are live.
Okay,
Okay, we are
everybody,
live.
we're live. Thank you for joining the Sunday Club after a week. Not bad. We've been quite regular in that sense, and we're going to get really regular going forward as well. And let's dive right into it. Of course, we're starting with the big RSS meet in Kerala that is presently taking place. Ratan Shadaji was supposed to join us today, but unfortunately, there's been some tragic news. Umesh Upadhyay, a senior journalist, someone that most of us knew very well, passed away unexpectedly today. And
So what has that got to do with that?
a very close friend. So
My our
wasn't in the.
condolences. Our condolences.
Yeah, in fact, I also met him just about a month ago, and Pallavi, I think, met him very recently, about 2-3 days ago.
He was a news
So
editor of our channel after
Our deepest
Rajdeep left.
condolences to his family and him. I mean, he's gone, so we can't condole him, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
so really sad, but that's life, I guess. You know.
Anyone who's in touch with Pallavi, there's some danger lurking behind. I mean,
Anyway, Pupaji is back. Sunil, I'm so glad you noticed. And okay,
where
let's
is the
just.
noise coming from? There is some noise coming.
There
He
is
doesn't even
Ajay.
know what the concept of Pupaji is.
Pupaji is Ajay Kumar.
Hi.
Nay, Pupaji is Suhel
Yeah,
Seth.
that's me.
You know, the echo is coming because of Ajay. So I've muted him. Although he'll never admit it. So it's okay. But as you can tell, he has been muted and the echo has
But
stopped.
Advaita, with all due respect, you're not
Huh.
filming a song out of, Kabhi Dil Hai, Kabhi Paas Hai, and all that nonsense. Why is the fan there trying to, put your hair all wavy? Because that fan is also causing a lot of noise.
Okay,
You're on a show. You don't have to show is waving and, oh, chal mere bhai, aajkal chal mere hathi mere sathi, and all that kind of nonsense.
okay. Okay. Ajay, we'll start with you since you're the only sensible one on this panel, and Sandip is in mourning for some reason because he's blackened out his screen.
No,
Ajay,
that's
don't feel bad at
what we
yourself.
spoke about him.
I'll unmute you. Okay. We are discussing the RSS meet in Kerala.
Well, a couple of thoughts. The discussions have always a bearing on the Indian political scene, especially when we look at the Bangladeshi Hindu issues which have cropped up over the time, especially since Sheikh Hasina's entire debacle that has happened thereafter. There's no doubt that the rising concern within the Hindu community, the organizations, and thereafter the rest of the country is very palpable, understandable, and one should have concern as to minorities not being prosecuted in any country under whatsoever circumstances. Nor can one deny the ploy which is being effected with the help of Pakistan in Bangladeshi politics. Nor can we even deny the subtext or the underlying subtext of US hand which is emerging gradually in the Bangladeshi politics. But herein I have a couple of questions which I want to just put across because I don't seem to find the right answers, and maybe we can discuss it and maybe we can get a better answers. Point number one which comes to my mind is, while discussing the issues of Angust, the atrocities on Hindu minorities in Bangladesh, is India overreaching itself as the repository of Hindu consciousness? Are we trying to project an image that we are something like in Israel, where all from Israel are welcomed in the country? If you're trying to do that, and if you're consistently trying to project that image, then that runs contrary to the fact that the Indian Prime Minister should speak to the American President regarding the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh. We have never indulged any foreign power when it comes to issues pertaining to South Asia. specifically our neighboring countries. Except while we have asked the international community to look at atrocities committed by Pakistan, be it vis-a-vis its terror outbreak and its terror activities. In 71 or prior to that, the events leading up to the creation of Bangladesh, we never sought any help. So if at one end we are trying to be the guardians and we are trying to present an image that we are there for the Hindus who are being prosecuted excessively, are we also trying to create a subtext that yes, we are getting the world around? Is it required? The second question that may be, just one more point. The second question that may also be propped up is, we have never preferred any Islamic association or anybody to come up and give us advice how we treat our minorities. Needless to say, India has always supported Hindus spread across. CAA is a burning example that this government has passed its legislation worth mention. But at the same time, will the Bangladeshi dispensation really approve of the overtly big brother approach towards handling minorities? Will a nation which is in turmoil itself not look at us in a different light, especially when we are referring to a so-called authoritarian regime being the protectors of minority? So these couple of questions have been bothering me for over the past 15 odd days. I don't seem to find an answer.
So I just want to step in here. Number one.
Ajay,
Who are we? Ajay, you mute. You're in the echo. Who are we to be the karta dhartas of everyone? The Chaudhrys of the Gaon. I think we have had a colossal foreign policy failure. We've had a colossal intelligence failure. We've had a colossal IB failure. So all these chaps who are saying, India ki foreign policy muscular, I haven't seen any bloody muscle. It's muscle dystrophy than anything else. Because what happened to the muscle? In your backyard on August the 5th, one lady was thrown out of a country. You guys didn't even have a clue. You all were scurrying around. And she's spending more time than Tom Hanks at an airport at Hindon. I mean, it's a bizarre situation. A, B. We are the only country who help our neighbors, but every neighbor hates us. You tell me which neighbor really likes us. Nepal doesn't like us. Sri Lanka didn't like us. I don't know what they do today. Maldives doesn't like us. Pakistan, khair baat hi chhod do. Bhutan is ambivalent. So what is our famed foreign policy? Where are all these stars? Dr. Jaishankar is there. Narendra Modi is there. We have great intelligence officers, bright as hell, James Bond version 10.0. What have they achieved? Let's be brutal. What have they achieved? I'm not saying that under the Congress they were any better, but that's not our yardstick for comparison. Now to answer a specific question, we can never be like Israel because we don't have the balls. We are like the clouds that garjo but don't barso. हम लोग कह देंगे हाँ भाई हमारे ये हैं हमारे वो हैं घंटा बाबा जी का ठुल्लू आप कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे. अरे यार, this country has not been able to stop incursions from Bangladesh into India via Assam or West Bengal, and we are going to say that we have a very muscular border protection strategy and muscular foreign policy. So I think it's time for India to take a reality check. A, we aren't smart. We are not that bright as we make it out to be. All this Vishwa Guru and all is damn good, but we are Ghenta Vishwa Guru. We are nowhere near Vishwa Guru. Number one. Number two, Americans are rascals. The American administration only cares about itself. They don't care about anyone else. आपके घर पे आके गारसेटी ने आपको गालियां दी, आप क्या कर पाए? कुछ नहीं. Eric Garcetti talked about the lack of democracy in your country while being the US ambassador to India. That joker Garcetti was busy uploading photographs of food and tourism sites rather than actually serious foreign policy. Could you do anything? You couldn't. You then say, to hell with New York Times, to hell with Washington Post, to hell. We have Nehru centers, we have embassies all over the world. We can't control the narrative. So what are we saying? The problem, Ajay, is we are so up our own ass, blowing smoke, that we have failed to realize our own incompetence or our actual level of competence. We do not have a competent foreign policy structure. We have people who do not understand the changing landscape of global diplomacy. Now, you have all these people, you have ORF, you have Advaita Kala, you have Pallavi Ghosh, Sandip Ghosh, Dipankar Sengupta. Everyone is setting up a think tank. In India, the beauty about the think tank is it's a tank without the think. What are they? They are event management companies. They are basically event management companies. Sameer Singh करेगा हर साल रायसेना डायलॉग. ठीक है बेटा, सबको बुलाओ. If he is friendly with your chachi, the chachi will also be invited. He does a great job. Point I'm making, Ajay, and all my fellow panelists is, what are we actually talking about? We have no muscularity. We have no determined foreign policy. We have no retaliation policy. August the 5th, between August the 3rd and August the 9th, Hindus were butchered in Bangladesh. Could we do anything? Babaji ka thullu. We couldn't do anything. What happened? Muhammad Yunus had to issue a tweet saying, no, we will take care of, that the Hindus are. Did Narendra Modi say anything? No. Did Jaishankar say anything? No. In specific terms, I'm saying. We have RNAW. They are actually raw, because I don't think there's any research or analysis. They are raw in both departments. What have they been able to achieve? So my thing is, let us be realistic. Now, some chap, Chachane or Chichuna, whatever his name is, has said, oh, but we are talking to Russia and Ukraine. I mean, these odious, see, this is the problem. A little knowledge is dangerous. Just because you're talking to Russia and Ukraine makes you a diplomatic star, is it? Strategy. What did Zelensky tell you? The same fellow, this whatever his name is, he said, oh, Russia and Ukraine. You went to Ukraine, you came back insulted. Zelensky insulted the Indian Prime Minister, therefore insulting India. Could you do anything? You couldn't do jack. There is a difference between buying oil from Russia and actually having a diplomatic offensive or a diplomatic strategy. So I rest my case saying we are not at all, as far as Bangladesh certainly is concerned, we have zero strategy even to this day.
Fact check, Modi did mention the situation with Hindus in Bangladesh.
Mentioned, even I have mentioned. What did he say?
He spoke about it. He can't fly into Bangladesh and do something. It's a sovereign country. Dipankar, yeah.
No, I think we have become very superficial about this entire thing. Let's talk about Maldives. After Maldives selected a new government, on the face of it, pro-China, anti-India, now they are eating out of our hands. Look at Nepal. Nepal may from time to time say anti-Indian things, but as Ambassador Rasgotra once said, Nepali politicians have a tendency of saying, look, if we criticize, you will accept our criticism. With China, they will not be amused. So there are different countries which have different problems from time to time, and those will creep up. You see, don't expect to have harmonious relationships with all countries all the time. The question is, are these differences actually inimical to our relations with those countries? Not always. Yes, when it comes to Bangladesh, there has been a colossal loss. But there are certain things we can do and certain things we can't do. For example, could we have forced Hasina to hold free and fair elections? Possibly we could have. But for that, you have to have a certain amount of capacity, which you don't. Are we responsible? Do we have some responsibilities to the Hindus in Bangladesh? I believe we do. But the fact is, we as an institution have not developed that kind of a clout to basically look after them. So what do? You reach out to people with whom you have good relations, and one of them happens to be the United States. Now, how this plays out in the long run will have to be watched in the long run. We will have to
Right.
develop capacities. But the fact also remains, we are talking to I lay great store in the fact that we are talking both to Russia and Ukraine. What did Ukraine say? Ukraine disagreed with some of our policies. So let them do it. That gentleman is a desperate person. He basically wants to say certain things. He wants to isolate Russia. It is his compulsion. We can listen. The fact is, we are possibly the only country on talking terms both with Russia as well as Ukraine. You never know how it will play out in the long run. Foreign policy is not to be conducted by tweets or not to be judged by weekly results. Look at it in the long run. In the long run, if you look at it, even those countries who have turned away from us are now back into our camp. Not necessarily because we are great, but because our rivals and our antagonists are worse. That is possibly a reason. But as I said, we cannot judge results of our foreign office based on events every 5 days. That is not the way to judge it. And I think, yes, Bangladesh is a loss, but given our leverages in Bangladesh, I think at this point in time, there's limited amount we can do. The fact is we have to build up institutional capacities. Without that, and some of those capacities will be financial, some of it will be military, some of it will be covert. But without that, yes, you're right, we won't be able to do much.
No, I lived in Nepal actually when the Maoist takeover happened, and they hated Indians like anything. So this is not really something. But Pallavi, let's get you in here if you're part of the debate. Pallavi, you're one of the few.
I am here.
You're one of the few who've actually gone to Bangladesh. What is their response to India and Indians? How do the people feel about India and Indians?
At this point of time, I would say miffed, because they can't accept the fact that Sheikh Hasina is still on Indian soil. And though many of them told me, netas and people told me that, we understood initially the first day she had to go somewhere, but why she's still with us. And increasingly, there's going to be a demand. There already has begun of bringing back handing over Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh, and India obviously cannot do that easily, and that is going to anger them even more and more. And the more we raise noises about Hindus being targeted in Bangladesh, we know the bulk of the population is obviously not Hindu. More and more they get angry with us, and they're saying you're meddling into our affairs. There's always, when we talk about Bangladesh and India's legacy, history, Arya Bangali, and all that kind of stuff, it's only there between West Bengal and Bangladesh largely. There is an innate sense among them that, India always acts as a big brother. So, the latest thing that they've said, that floods have come to parts of Bangladesh thanks to India opening up the Farakka barrage and so on and so forth. So, yes, I would say there's a bit of dislike for us, and I'm putting it very mildly. I got to see a bit of that occasionally. I mean, the police was okay, but army would often, the moment they would know that you've got an Indian passport, the attitude would change a bit. I mean, they wouldn't harm you, but they just would not cooperate. So I see that underlying dislike for Indians. The more we raise a voice about the Hindus over there, the more they're going to dislike us. And the longer Sheikh Hasina is here, the more and more things are going to get tougher for us in terms of their perception and feeling.
I want to ask Pallavi, this is a serious question.
I've also got a question, yeah.
What do you really think? What will happen to Sheikh Hasina, Kuar, India? And this is a really serious question. What do you think?
Before that, Pallavi,
I don't think
May I ask you also add a supplementary question before you give your expert views? One is, diplomacy. Is it about being popular? You don't have a problem if the US and every other country raises questions about minorities in India, but we raise questions, we get distant, therefore we suddenly say, no, India is being hated and our foreign policy is wrong or something wrong with us. That we have entirely entitled to do. Let me complete. I'm getting your reply. I'm just putting the question. Then you reply, please. Let me complete my question. So therefore, what should India be doing at this point in time? To use Suhel's expression, the minority situation in Bangladesh. Should we talk about it, not talk about it, or how should we engage or not? Secondly,
No,
a lot of countries have hosted. What should we do? We knowing the situation in Bangladesh, do we just throw Hasina back over there? So that is precisely, I think, what Professor is saying, that you have to navigate through the situation, and diplomacy is all about making small, imperfect moves towards a perfect solution. So,
okay.
go ahead,
So a
please.
couple of things over here. One is, I'm nowhere suggesting that India should stop raising their voice about the Hindus. I'm just telling you the perception among the Bangladeshis, and even as I speak, I get messages from students over there. Every time we speak, I mean, today officially, the Bangladeshi Hindu group did a press conference yesterday, and they said that 49 teachers have been asked to leave their job because they're Hindus. And I saw it myself. I was at the Dhaka College. Actually, I'd gone to interview a couple of students at the Jagannath Hall, which is a hostel for the Hindus. And when I was coming out, I was told to come back. And I saw in front of me, there was this Hindu teacher, and she was being told to leave. And, when she was just keeping quiet, they poured water on her and they started cracking jokes. It was cheap. So there are two reasons why they're hating some Indians, not everyone, Indians. One, because Hindus, and second, they feel that these are the people who are very pro Sheikh Hasina. They dislike Sheikh Hasina more than they dislike the Hindus, and that is the reason why that dislike for India among a large section of people, increasingly among the rabid and the Jamaat and the students, are increasing, because for them India is someone who's given refuge to Sheikh Hasina. That is their point of view. As to what we are going to do diplomatically, well, MEA sources have been consistently telling us that we've not given her asylum. We've not given a visa, to say. So all we did was that she had nowhere to go. She was a woman and she was with someone who we had good equations. And we thought that things would calm down. And that's why we gave her refuge. She's still here. I'm told she's trying for asylum. I'm told she's trying for a visa. And, she's trying to leave India because she knows that it's going to create a problem for her eventually. After all, her family is also over here. She has a large number of friends actually in India. And so she is going to be trying that. So India is actually hoping that ye apne aap ho jaye. I don't think we are in a mood to kind of extradite her because that demand is coming in from Bangladesh. I mean, Fakhrul Islam has said that he's the BNP second in command. And increasingly, they're demanding that, India has an extradition treaty with Bangladesh. And therefore, they should hand her over because they want her to be prosecuted. I don't think India is in a mood to do that. India can always avoid doing that because we also have some two-way clause. That's what I was told, which means that if she's believed to have committed a crime A, it should be a crime not just in Bangladesh, it should also be a crime in India. So we can always use that reason as not handing her over to Bangladesh.
Okay, let's address the elephant.
I was just wrapping up. So the
why
longer
do we not declare India a Hindu Rashtra?
Huh? Kya?
Why do we not declare Bharat a Hindu Rashtra?
Baba, that's a different question. Let me just finish up.
No. It's very important and relevant to what we are discussing. This is a serious point I'm making. If we believe, one minute. Ajay started by saying that if we believe that we are the protectors of Hindus and qua Israel, I'm just tossing it on the table. Why are we then being hypocritical or duplicitous? Let us say that yes, we are the protectors of Hindus and we are a Hindu Rashtra. What's the harm? I'm just trying to argue. I'm just.
I don't think India is apologetic, and nor should India be apologetic about standing up for Bangladesh.
Okay, let Ajay come in or he will echo all the time.
Just one point, Pallavi. Why I asked and raised the question is very simple. See, over the past 75 odd years that we have asserted ourselves gradually, and over the past 10 years that we have seen a predominant position when we take about people of Indian origin, when we talk about people of Indian origin being very proud, being associated, finding a kind of resonance with governance in India. It also then begs a question. You go any other place in the world, do people really treat you, do even Hindus treat you as a repository of Hindutva.
No.
And when they don't treat you, they do not give you, nobody comes back to India saying that I want to come back to my motherland. For reasons apart from families. Those who have migrated, they just don't do that. So it is much more of a fluff. And when we are talking about, when a esteemed organization like RSS or various other factions, when they take a position and you talk about Hindus being in danger, it has a resonance with the Indian politics. So the question which really begs to be answered is, are we trying to target or achieve something within India with this crisis, which is actually a diplomatic crisis? And as rightly put by Suhel, it is absolutely a bizarre moment. Since 2010 onwards, we have known the way Sheikh Hasina's government has functioned. And we have seen it. How is it that we were so closely associated? We used leverages. We actually asked America to back off and let Sheikh Hasina manage her own affairs. And then we did not know the kind of discontent and the kind of angst and distrust that the government has within Bangladesh. It is not far away. It is only in January that the elections took place. And we didn't know. Obviously, we can't be sitting ducks. So these questions apart, can we let domestic compulsions create a vacuum or drive a wedge in the foreign policy?
Okay.
Ajay, just before Professor.
One thing, Sandip, I just want to say something and I'll come to you as soon as I can after that. I think the RSS bringing up the issue of Hindus is not something that is necessarily political. I think it's very much in line with how we view the situation that is going on across the border. The fact that at one point of time, we were all one country. There was an understanding at the time of independence that we would protect our minorities. Now, Hindu majority India, and make no mistake, because it's Hindu majority India, has lived up to that promise. But our neighbors, which are Islamic majority nations, have not delivered on it. And not only not delivered on it, they have actively persecuted Hindus. So it is beyond even any logic of why we should be silent about that. We are a strong country. We are the homeland of the largest population of Hindus.
Absolutely.
And I don't see why we shouldn't speak of it. And as for Hindu Rashtra, if you look at Hindu Rashtra only in terms of religious demographic, then yes, then you will see conflict in it. But if you see it as an identity, as a civilizational identity, and as the term Hindu being very much in sync with secular ideals, which I believe it is, and a lot of other people believe it is. And as for being the repository of Hindutva, there are a lot of people who do believe that India is the repository of Hindutva. And those who have migrated are free to migrate. And those who are returning, and there are those who are returning, are free to return. Professor and Sandip.
Let me back Advaita on that. You see, in 1955, we had this Liaquat-Nehru Pact, so that both dominions, or at least the Dominion of Pakistan, Republic of India, agreed to protect the minorities. As Advaita has said, Pakistan failed. And at that point in time, the Indian polity was absolutely unanimous that minorities in Bangladesh or erstwhile Pakistan were not to be treated as foreigners. That was the consensus political opinion then. Later on, political correctness changed that. Why? As Advaita said, we protected our minorities and we thought Hindu minorities, Christian minorities, Buddhist minorities would be protected in Bangladesh or Pakistan, as the case may be. That did not happen. When that has not happened, we are morally bound to ensure we have some responsibility towards them. As for the Hindu Rashtra thing, I don't think it's anybody's argument that we should be a Hindu theocratic state. But yes, as you said, if we consider ourselves to be a civilizational nation, and increasingly we seem to be moving in that direction with errors, mistakes, mishaps throughout, I think sooner or later, even if you don't put it in the Constitution of India, India will be seen as if not a Hindu nation, as an Indic nation. Its soul will be Indic. There will be elements, large elements of Hinduism, Buddhism, etc., etc. There will be a Christian and a Muslim flavor also, no doubt about it. But the fact is, it will be an Indic civilizational identity. And I think to own up to that does not violate any concept of secularism, and obviously our diplomacy will reflect that.
Okay, so that's where we're at. Anyway, this is a big meeting that the RSS is taking place. There are a lot of assumptions about what decisions are going to be happening. One is predominantly has to do with the coordination between the RSS and the BJP. And I want to go to Ajay here. I think Sandip is not with us right now, so can't go to him. But Ajay, this coordination. I'll have to mute you and then otherwise we'll have this trouble. But this, coordination, this issue of coordination, which is speculated upon and spoken about a lot and is even dominating the headlines now, how much truth is there to that sort of assumption? And what is the history of this coordination been?
Very honestly, Advita, I think it's much more of a writer's imagination, where we journalists, we seem to find all kinds of nuances to put out a story, that there is so-called gaps, there are so-called mishaps within the thought process of RSS think tank, and that within the BJP. Over the years, what I have understood, in every household, let's bring it to this, in every household, can each and every individual think alike? It is humanly impossible. So naturally there are different perceptions, but the orientation of the household remains the same. Can anyone really delink BJP from the more ideological standing that the RSS provides? It is impossible. So when you are looking at a political party, it has compulsions of its own. It cannot espouse each and every line that is being spoken by the ideologue or the repository of thought processes. To expect that the RSS cadre does not get motivated enough, or that there was disaffection and this and that, these are all, I have found them to be very discordant noises. Up till now, really, even if there are issues, they have always been ironed out. Let's look at the Vajpayee tenure. We had active, demonstrative, so-called differences within the RSS Sarsanchalak and the Prime Minister. But was there ever any so-called fallout? Nothing. Differences of opinion is a part and process of a political evolution. So I find this very irrelevant. It's a kind of a discussion that we all try to hypothetically indulge in. It's a good talking point. It's a good Sunday club discussion point maybe. But to me, I don't find any truth or any iota of, or any meat to really go about it. That's my understanding. I may be absolutely wrong.
Okay, so let's move on from this topic now and move on to the next one, which is
one thing. Advaita, Sandip is saying, please add him back.
No, it's saying device not connected. Device not connected. That's what it's saying.
Okay.
So I'm unable to add him back. Yes. The other big thing is, and this Pallavi can probably start us off on this because Pallavi is very active, is an active binge watcher. Pallavi, have you seen IC 814?
Yes, of course I saw it.
Okay,
I watched it.
So I've not watched it, so I can't really comment on it. But what I see on social media,
you must watch it for Vijay Verma. He's hot.
Okay,
and he's very well maintained.
This is the way you are talking here. We are having a review of a series. Her entire thing is
jealous, okay?
No, but I mean, look at this.
No, so exactly. Now, these are the kind of things that are coming out on social media about this series, that people are very upset about the fact that the terrorists go by Hindu names, which I think is
at that time. Those are the names. They didn't have you as their advisor or nomenclature.
Exactly. So that I think is easily, kind of explained. However, people are also saying that the Indian government, the bureaucracy has been made to look completely incompetent
They were.
and
They
and
were.
and
They were.
and sort of slimy. Okay, that's one thing. Then I've not watched the series. I'm going by the negative comments on
So why
social
don't you
media.
watch the series and then have a discussion with
No,
us who
wait.
have watched the series?
The other thing that they have said is that the terrorists or the were kind of you were made to feel
Hijackers.
bad for them, that they were driven by
Yeah.
a real selfless cause. So what was the need to make you feel empathy for them?
But
And
that is the prerogative of the person making the series. You don't like it, switch it off.
No,
They are
no, no.
not.
But here we are talking about
That is
IC
a
814.
stream of
Come
thinking.
on. No, no, no. I mean, in the name of creative license, we can't have it so much also. So I've watched it. So one of the hijackers is shown to have a soft corner for one of the air hostesses. And when he's going off, he's telling her, Tum apna khayal rakhna. Then there's this scene where they're all playing Antakshari. You know, people are singing and all that, as if it was some happy occasion. My problem is not with the names Shankar and Bhola, because if you go by the MEA statement in 2000 itself, it had mentioned the name of 5 hijackers, their real names, but it also said that they verified this code name like Burger, Doctor, Shankar, Bhola. I think that outrage doesn't make sense to me. But this thing about the hijackers being looked at upon as, being nice, sweet, helping, one of them is cleaning the flock toilets. ये सब नहीं हुआ था. That's what I'm being told. I was also outside reporting. ये सब तो मुझे कहीं नहीं लगा when anyone was coming out. So that I think in the name of creative license. And
You
yes,
were there in 1999 reporting.
I was a bacha reporter, I was a cub reporter. I was at BBC at that point of time, Suhel. It was just one of those things where I accompanied all the big bosses of BBC. Someone had to run around with the mic and all. And
Where
I was
you went-
translating
Where were you?
the airport, at the Delhi airport.
Oh, okay. I thought you went to this thing.
Kandahar.
See, I was reporting the Prime Minister's office at that point of time in '99, when we virtually lay seed at the Prime Minister's office, to the tune that the day when Mr. Jaswant Singh was given the go-ahead to travel to Kandahar, we were all outside, and he spoke briefly to all of us. There's no doubt about it that within the series IC814, a lot of liberties have been taken. Things have not really been projected the way they really were, or the understanding that we had, or the sense that we had. Even if I look at it as a creative enterprise, one of the biggest lacunae that I find is that look at the ensemble of cast that they have. Have they even been utilized? It seems that the 9 people who formed the backbone of the series themselves did not have enough. I mean, Nasruddin Shah, Pankaj Kapoor, I mean, did you really justify them? So yes, there are lots of questions. There are things that obviously I would not like to specifically get into. We were privy to some of the corporate conversations, what happened, the narrations that happened, the entire Amritsar airport fiasco, everything. I mean, we were privy to it. We have known about it. Obviously, one would never like to write about such things. It was one of the most tragic events that took place. But yes, this over dramatization and at times the way things are presented, it is hurtful, especially if you are in the know of things.
Let me come in here.
Script. Advaita, if Advaita had written the script, it would have been far better.
Okay,
Advaita, if I may, on this,
Yes, sir.
because here I've got I happen to be, I was posted in Kathmandu then, and that evening I was there at Hotel Yakin Yeti, and where there was the Indian Embassy function happening. When we first heard about the thing, first my heart sank because my 4-year-old daughter and my mom had left. These two Calcutta and the Delhi flights leave in 15 minutes interval, and they had left by the Calcutta flight. When they said Indian Airlines hijacking, I was totally very nervous. But then we heard it's a Delhi flight, and
Then I don't want to name, there's a young diplomat who is now an ambassador. He said, oh, everything's under control because the flight has landed in Amritsar. And there began the story. And there are certain other protagonists who were very intimately involved, and the families we knew. But they were all, and so I was monitoring it throughout because of being close contact with the embassy folks. Plus, there were several people, including Suhel, the Reliance Bank manager over there. They were all on the plane, and these are people with whom we have been meeting, dining. So it was very, very, a close thing for us. So we have been monitoring it throughout, and as luck would have it, later on, as I've tweeted, again, I can't take names, at least two people who were part of Jaswant Singh's team who went to Kandahar and who were part of the rescue operation. From them also I've heard other things. So a lot of this, and the best thing is, that's a bit of an aside story. After that Indian Airlines flight, this is a very hilarious part of it. I must say this on an aside. Indian Airlines suspended operations from Kathmandu because there was a huge diplomatic tussle. India wanted to put their security guard on Kathmandu, in Kathmandu airport, which the Nepalese said, no, this is a foreign sovereign country, and we will not let a foreign country's security to be done. And the biggest breakthrough, and this is where our MEA comes in, what has was gone through, they finally created a platform 3 feet above the ground and created a box which still exists, okay, that still operates, on which Indian security do the frisking of passengers getting onto the flight. That was the massive diplomatic breakthrough done, and I was surprised that it still continues in the same manner even till date. And that's almost how many years, if Pallavi was a child, that it's been continuing. But on the first flight, so I was first when the 814, coincidentally, I was in the plane, and I was sitting in the front. Then the steward, the chief steward, he came to me. He said, "Sir, you would be happy to know I was the chief steward on that aircraft." I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Even the pilot was the pilot." I said, "Don't tell me next the hijacker is also sitting there behind." So I was just saying that I was also on the. He said, no, sir, that's not it. We have asked for this particular roster because we wanted to go through this process of catharsis. We wanted to relive that because you wouldn't realize that if 3 days people are confined in a place when they don't know whether they're going to live or die, it is such a, traumatic experience. And we have all been so. Some of us who were on the flight have actually asked for today's duty to go through. And so there are several accounts, including another gentleman who was there in the flight, again can't be named, who still lives in Delhi, post his retirement, all of them. I have not heard anything of this kind. Of generally, we were having a merry time. You guys are here in Kathmandu and other places worried. We were generally enjoying. And to the final one, this I've quoted since I've put on Twitter, and this is again first-hand account from somebody who went to accompany. They said they got scared, and you're talking about air hostesses being, these people getting friendly. They said they were there, they were scared with all those guys, standing outside with the guns and ogling at the women. They said what they had to do is they were carrying the relief flight. There were a lot of AIMS nurses. They took their overhauls and passed it into the plane so that the air hostesses could put them on and come down, rather than be subjected to the eyes of all these guys who were there. So there was nothing which is of nobody has given a redeeming account to me. I have met several of them before and after about that whole entire episode, to think that okay, there were some moments of light moments of people had sort of got into even a Stockholm syndrome, which you might call it. None of that had happened, and I think that is entirely cooked up, and it is a disservice. Like somebody said, would Israel make a film like this for their, when they're hijacking hostage? To do this sort of a thing, try to even for poetic justice or creative liberty to whitewash it, I think it is quite they're not serving our own interests.
Advaita,
Yes, I mean, I can
Anubhav,
understand that this was a story, and I'm speaking from a screenwriter's lens. I can understand that this was a story with no heroes, right? And that's the way it should have been written, as something that was a failure all across the board. Unfortunately, what seems to be the perception by most of the people who have a problem with this series is that one side was made to look like incompetent, non-hero, whatever have you, and the other side who are actually far more vicious if you think about it. I mean, we may have a bumbling side, but the other side was out for blood. They have been humanized in a way that is disingenuous, and that's why it's so problematic.
Advaita,
Professor.
Anubhav Sinha has done this before. I mean, if you look at his previous movies, you have basically inspired by true stories. So there is a bunch in that particular story which are the perpetrators of violence. Their casts have been changed, but yet he claims that they are basic. It's from a true story. So there is a method in this
Yes.
falsehood. There is
The film
he's
you're
been
talking
doing
about is Article 14, and
Article
it was
14. Yes,
the case during Akhilesh's time where the castes were
yes,
actually reversed, but he made it
yes.
an upper caste and the victims
Absolutely,
as Dalits.
absolutely.
So he
So
does do this. And is that the right thing to do when it is a true story? If IC 814 was a fiction of his imagination, then it's fine. He can do whatever he wants. But if you're claiming it to be a true story,
absolutely.
then
By
you
the way,
can't do what you did in Article 14. So this is a
by the
person
way,
with a I
by
get
the way,
it.
The real,
this
real,
is not this is not restricted to Anubhav Sinha. You have several movies, particularly in the South, where they are supposedly inspired by true stories, and sometimes castes have been changed so as to make Brahmins, other castes, Hindus look very, very bad. And yet the tag inspired by true stories remains. This is the case with Sherni also, that Vidya Balan story. See, that's one part. The other part is the bumbling part. When the flight landed in Amritsar, the hijacked flight landed in Amritsar, we who had read all these Frederick Forsyth novels, etc., Devil's Alternative, we thought the first thing that the security would do would be to shoot the tires of the airline so that it is rendered immobile. It's fait accompli, the plane can't fly out. And they let the plane fly out. Once you let the plane fly out of Amritsar, everything was out of your hands. And that was the
But
biggest mistake that they
but
made.
but they would have shot the
Professor,
passengers, yeah. Professor,
No,
no,
they
no,
no,
would have shot the passengers.
no, no,
see,
no, no, no,
In
no,
Pallavi,
fact,
Pallavi,
no.
in the series, one
that
second, in
is
the
all.
series, you can see the pilot actually thinking of not taking the flight off from Amritsar. But then there were
Those are
passengers, they
those
hid
are
out.
those are those are the explanations Anubhav Sinha has given. Yeah, what Ajay will tell us that someday I hope the real things which happened behind the scenes get told. What are the what were the pulls and pressures working on the government? I have just alluded to it as obliquely as possible. It was a clear case of सरकार तुम्हारा है, system हमारा है. There were a lot of powerful people who were pulling. See, Ajay is nodding. Okay, there are a lot of people who were pulling the strings from behind, and that's where you might say the Vajpayee government or the weakest, because they were getting influenced by a lot of people who were acting behind the scene, and which somebody in the again in the establishment of those days called quote unquote, I won't say anything more than this, quote unquote, you
Chalo bhai.
Damn.
I just feel like it would have been an rendition
Ajay,
if the lens was that of the terrorist. Just do
Tell me,
that.
I just want to ask something, Advaita. We have been doing this Sunday club, and I mean this seriously. We've been doing this Sunday club for so long. How difficult is it for us to fix the audio on this program?
It has nothing to do with the program.
I'll tell you why. No. See, don't be in denial. Someone or the other, their audio, it could be me, it could be anyone, always gets screwed up. But it only happens on this thing.
Yes, now stop. The reason why we don't get sponsorships is because people like you come on the show and then grumble about the show
I'm
and
not
criticize
grumbling.
the show
This is the
and
point.
then put it
If you
down.
say something
When we
honestly,
go-
it's seen as a grumble. No,
when we
see,
end the stream,
if
we
you're
can have
See,
this-
I need to butt in, Advaita. None of
we
my
can
shows
have this
on
discussion
TV or
when you
anywhere
end the-
ever I have this issue. But yeah, it's
I'm
been
with you.
thrice that this issue has happened with us.
Oh, please,
They
Ajay,
don't-
even you're going to be bounced out of here. Suhel,
Here, there.
On a serious note, if you're talking about RC 814, one thing I would like to really put it across.
By the way, it's a base for a book written by Srinjoy.
Now, here they go.
The captions.
Yeah. Srinjoy did the book is written by Srinjoy, but okay, let's keep it like that. He's a good friend, so it's okay. See, what happened at Amritsar was not an Indian government show. Those 40-45 minutes were a completely trying and difficult time. There was excessive lack of coordination between various agencies, including the airport. These things have already been brought out in public, therefore I am at liberty to talk about it. We made a massive mistake at Amritsar. And let's not hoodwink ourselves into anything else. It was a massive mistake. What could have been done, how it could have been done, lots of issues remain still unanswered. But there's no doubt that the strings were being pulled not from the Prime Minister's office, not from the intelligence offices, not from the Home Ministry, but places other than that, which poses the question, was it a way to handle crises such as that? Another perception which was built at that point of time when we were accused as journalists of bullying the government into submission
Yes.
by showing the plight of people who for 3 days were begging for their relatives' safety.
Correct.
Why were we made the scapegoats? We were not the people who were pressurizing the government. There were only less than 200 passengers in that flight. 200 families, do they have so much of sway that they could have, made the government not take a decisive step? There are too many questions. At that point of time, even the orientation, we shouldn't say it, the gentleman is no longer with us. The foreign minister, his conduct, his act are of questionable issues.
Let me tell you. See, Advaita, as you probably know, it's in the public domain. I was working on the Vajpayee campaign, Hum Abhi Atal Hain, along with Shunu Sen. When this thing happened, there was a wave of accusations accusing Vajpayee of inaction. A. B. If you remember, and Ajay will bear me out, we had a situation where outside 7 RCR, families were camping and saying, why the hell are you not freeing our people? People were saying that, ab naya saal hum aise, manayenge. The pressure was unbelievable. A. B. The media also played a very vicious part in accentuating and highlighting that entire pressure on the government. Please understand that 1999 was when Vajpayee had come to power. On December the 1st, there was a big issue between Sheila Dikshit and Ajay Markan. And I was also advising there. That's when I created Bhagidari. So we were faced with a huge issue that here is the year end when families are meant to be reuniting with each other. The government of India is tone deaf and therefore not doing anything. So that was one. Number two, there were many pulls and pressures. Ajay is very wise in not alluding to them. There were very many pulls and pressures. In the sense, Jaswant Singh was on his own track because he wanted, certain level of glory. The NSA was on their own thing. Brajesh Mishra had a completely different idea. Kamal Pandey in the Home Ministry had a different idea. Advani and Vajpayee never saw eye to eye on the issue on hand at that point in time. So you had a government that was viscerally torn apart from inside. You had no one willing to take the decision, because then you would have been blamed for the fallout. So what did they do? They chose the easy way out. They said, we will send Masood to Kandahar. That, to my mind, was the biggest mistake, because you backed off from everything that India and other countries believe in. That you never give in to the demands of a terrorist, because those demands will then set a precedent which you will not be able to address. Now that is what happened. And please bear me out, Ajay, because I know we were handling the communication, the branding fallout, because articles were being written. People were going on television every evening. Please go and look at the footage at that time. And people were saying, oh, the government is inactive. Why did we take Vajpayee? Why did we elect him? Kuch ho nahi raha. He's a somnambulist. He's only thinking. Kuch kaam nahi ho raha. Jaswant Singh is talking in his own thing. That is the mood of the country at that point in time.
See, at that point of time, it was so crystal clear that everybody had an axe to grind. Virtually, there was a paralysis, as very well explained by Suhel. I'll narrate a small incident which should give us a fair idea of what exactly was happening. When I mentioned about the foreign minister traveling to Kandahar, this news came in from 5 RCR. Then, those days, we had access. We were not blocked out. And many of us used to actually, at times, plonk inside to have a cup of tea. So I got a message. In those days, mobile phone itself was a rarity, but I got a message that you can hop onto the flight and go to Kandahar because someone else is. By the time I came out and we were talking, I mean, there was everyone who present there. Most of our colleagues were there. We discussed it and we said that we need to confront the foreign minister about it. That why aren't we being taken? And we did so. And then ultimately it led to the chaos to the extent that 5 of us lay down on the road in front of the foreign minister's car, saying that we will not move if you do not take us, because we are 101% sure that somebody else is sitting into your car. And then one lady came out of the car. And there was only one English cum Hindi channel at that point of time, apart from Z, which was broadcasting extensively on this particular issue, which was formulating a lot of opinion.
NDTV.
Right. And I'm sorry, that was the time when I started this. I may sound very misogynistic, but dupatta journalism caught on at that point of time. That changed a lot. And information, each and every information which was being discussed within the corridors of power was broadcast on air. Because at that point of time, all of us, the so-called Babalogs, had access inside. That is detrimental for the national interest. Something we never introspect as journalists. But then that also taught people like us a lesson that, if you are well connected, if you have the reach, you can know things, you can jeopardize things, and how, as media, we can destroy things also.
Same
And apart from
2611 also, Ajay.
Same story. And look at the perception being created. The perception is always that the wrongdoers are actually prosecuted people. So, how do you fight this? You already come around with a preconceived notion of elevated status. And everybody else
I think that's what filtered down to the show as well. That they were persecuted. They were persecuted, the wrongdoers or the terrorists in this case. I think that's the same thought process that has filtered down to the show as well. Going by the critique online.
See, this is where I have my disconnect with the show. Because, see, over the past 15-20 years, we have seen a dynamic shift within India where people are conscious of the ill effects of people in positions of power or the Babalog syndrome. And we are seeing a huge fallout of this. People are rejecting this kind of existence within the society. And then to come out and create a narrative, had it been funded by a Dawood Ibrahim, I would have still been okay with it. Yeah, it's okay. But then to say that these are based on true events and come out with something which is so fictitious, at times hurting and disturbing, I actually feel for the families who lost their close ones during this IC 814. That newly married couple.
Absolutely.
What would they have thought about it?
Well, really, this was the pre-9/11 era. Of course, post this terrible hijacking, we saw the 3 planes hijacked in the United States, the strongest, biggest country in the world, brought to its knees and lost so many lives. So going by the loss of lives analytic, we paid a big price in the exchange, but we were able to save a lot of lives as well. So I think that's just something that we can take some satisfaction or some gratitude for, is that lives were saved. But yeah, I think this episode, Ajay, from whatever you're telling me, deserves a more, not on the surface, but a more in-depth story. It may actually, the main story may have been crisis communication. I think that would have been the story, or the lack of it, and the different players involved. I think that is probably
that will be too realistic for India. See, we are not. You cannot have a 9/11 commission kind of a documentary being made in India. Unfortunately,
this is the problem. I mean, if this was the US, we would be able to tell that. I mean, as storytellers, we would be able to tell the backstory of a situation like this and tell it realistically, and not go for these kind of low-hanging fruit of humanizing the terrorist and doing all of those sort of silly things.
Advaita, the problem is a lot of this is classified. So at some day, if things become, unclassified, or there are people who come out with tell it all, then only you'll get to know. But the rest of it, well, you'll get to know some more detail, yes, but not the kind of thing Ajay, me, Suhel are alluding to. Those are, still very hot things, and there are too many people who Ajay would know are still around and involved. So it won't come out so easily.
All right. And on that note, this has been such an interesting Sunday Club, I have to say. We covered a lot of issues, but most importantly, I think we gained a lot of insight into these things, because a lot of our viewers and myself, we were very young, when IC 814 happened. So I'm glad that we get all our senior citizens on the show to contribute, like Ajay and Sandip and Suhel, who were like in their youth or middle age, more realistically, when this happened. So this is something.
I hate the line. On record, I hate the line.
Now your audio is fine, Ajay.
Now it's fine.
So now it means that Suhel is the one who creates the problem.
Yeah, I think it was Suhel.
No, it's Ajay.
Okay,
But
I'll take it.
everybody, thank you. Do like, share, subscribe, and we'll be soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.